This 2-day Urban Music Festival is the largest Black-owned, independently run outdoor music festival in the nation. It's the brainchild of Jason J. Carter. When I went one-on-one with this native New Yorker, I learned he shares more than a name with another Jason Carter. So how many times has that name, Jason Carter, confused people with you and the other Jason Carter of the Jimmy Carter family fame?
Yeah. A few times. He and I actually know each other. So back when he made his run for governor, I supported him as well. So that was our campaign. Jason Carter meet Jason Carter, and Jason Carter meet Jason Carter. And but yeah, a few times, but he's a great guy, so it's not a bad thing.
That was one of the many good things that happened to Jay Carter after his family moved from New York to Atlanta when he was 14 years old.
So I spent 14 years in Harlem. So I moved to Atlanta, or more so Stone Mountain, when I was 14. So ninth grade, my father got a promotion with Xerox. So it's either we were moving to Rochester, New York, or we were moving to Atlanta, Georgia. In my opinion, I think that's probably one of the best decisions our family made.
Why?
Atlanta's it's a special place. I tell people that all the time. I said, you can go anywhere in the world, and if somebody says, yeah, it feels like Atlanta, no, it don't. No, no, nothing feels like Atlanta. Atlanta's Atlanta, right? I mean, you can't really go anywhere and get this kind of, this makeup, you know? I mean, it was, growing up in New York, I thought Harlem was the blackest thing in the world. But there was another level when I moved to Atlanta. Like, your chief of police was black, your commissioner, your city council, your mayor, business owners. It was just another level. So I think my experience as a young black boy just kind of exploded when I moved to Atlanta.
So in high school, you look like the kind of man that when you were in high school, you had some side gigs.
Yeah, I had hustles. Yeah.
So tell me what you were doing back then.
Yeah, I was a candy guy. That's right. So got in trouble. That started in New York. I think it was like 6th grade. What I found out, because my parents, although we lived in Harlem, we lived in the hood, but they invested in education. So I went to a private school while living in Harlem. But what I realized is that the candy that we have in Harlem is very different than the candy they have in Midtown. And so that was my first hustle until I got my hand slapped. So yeah, I was a candy guy. I was that guy in school.
So when you came to Atlanta, which high school did you go to?
I went to Redan High School in Stone Mountain.
So did you continue your Candyman business at Redan?
No.
What did you do at Redan?
I didn't really, but I mean, I didn't really have that hustle, but ironically, I connected with another close friend of mine in 9th grade whose birthday was around the same time as mine. And, I wanted to it's my first year living in Atlanta, living in Stone Mountain. I wanted to have a birthday party. I want to have a big birthday party for my 15th. And so being that my father worked at Xerox, I said, well, let me create this flyer, take it to my dad's company, get them to make all these copies. I bring all these copies to school, and we started passing out all these flyers. And my parents were like, well, how many people you plan on having at your birthday? I said, maybe 40 people. It was hundreds.
No.
Hundreds showed up. It was insane. So my parents were like, well, how do you know all these people? Who are these people? And it was probably one of that was the start of throwing events, I guess, was when I turned 15.
When his older sister was accepted at Florida A&M University, FAMU, he went along for the ride and was blown away by what he saw.
At that time, I didn't know a lot about HBCUs, right? I just wasn't exposed to that. So went down to visit Florida A&M when I was 15 with my sister and mom and dad, and never seen anything like it. So going from Harlem, right, and having that black experience, coming to Atlanta, the black experience just explodes, and then seeing FAMU, I said, oh my God, this is insane. There's another level. And so, seeing young black intelligent, beautiful people from all dynamics and backgrounds and suits and carrying briefcases and running the class and looking at what's going on in the engineering building and seeing what's going on in the business school. It just blew my mind. I just wanted to be a part of it. And I think that's probably the second best choice I made at that young age. Yeah.
So what was your major at FAMU?
It was business administration, then I got into business economics.
So when did the idea of having a music festival like One Musicfest, when did that really start to percolate? Because I don't think it was just in 2008.
Well, so upon graduating, I worked for the family business. But, that wasn't my first choice.
What's the family business?
So my father left Xerox and created a Xerox agency. But coming out of school, I was a creative. I had these big ideas. I didn't want to work for the family business. So they said, all right, you got 6 months to find something. And then if you don't find something, you're working for us. I said, bet. And then 6 months passed. I didn't change the world. And they said, yeah, go ahead, get up, 7 o'clock in the morning, coming into the office. And so then I started working for the family business. But as I was doing the family business, I randomly just started doing events.
While Jay Carter worked in the family business in the day, at night he hosted events, then opened a live music venue, and eventually a nightclub. And then he started doing some research.
And as I started exploring the live music and festival space, I just realized there was another big gaping hole in how festivals are being programmed. Because music is about discovery and connectivity, and these festivals are about community. And in traveling to go into some of these festivals, I was like, why doesn't this exist for our music, our culture? And no one had the answer. So I took the idea actually to some large companies at first. And they literally looked me in my face and said, no one's gonna go to that. They're not gonna go. And these are people that didn't look like me, telling me what our culture and our people wouldn't do. I was like, why would you say that? Like an outdoor music festival that has, cross-generational music and music of all different genres kind of in one space to be celebrated. Why would we not? And couldn't really get anybody on board with that. So I said, all right, well, I talked to some of my friends in certain different industries and backgrounds, and we kind of motley crewed, piecemealed this thing all together and did the first one in 2010. But it was really just the lack of programming in the festival industry that really didn't cater to Black culture and music.
And what's so interesting is the diversity of the kinds of music that One Music Fest gives.
Right.
Sounds like that was another important point for you, and why?
Absolutely.
Because there's hip hop, but there's R&B, there's a little reggae thrown in there.
Right.
So how did you create this gumbo?
I think it's the acknowledging how powerful intersections are, right? If you stay in your own space, in your own box, in your own community, you're gonna only get what you get, right? But if what happens if I put the Earth, Wind, and Fire music lover and a Jill Scott music lover in the same space, there is some overlap. There's some overlap, right? I mean, the way we listen to music is not, we're not myopic in how we think and celebrate and how we embrace and how we digest music, right? So, I could probably look at your playlist and you probably have everything in there from, Boney James to Jeezy.
I do.
Right? So why is there not a space where we can safely celebrate all levels of our culture and music, right? It doesn't have to be all young hip hop or all blue lights in the basement. And so it was a cultural experiment. And I said, I hope this works. And it did.
But in the beginning, how much money did you lose?
A lot. Yeah. 5 years straight. 5 years straight, we lost tons of money.
Why didn't you give up?
Mostly the people, I would say. The people, watching it grow, looking at the way sponsors and brands were getting more involved. But I would say, after the 5th year, I absolutely wanted to stop. I had my second child on the way. My wife she was probably the main person that kept me going. She was the main person that, if it wasn't for her, One Musicfest probably wouldn't be going on right now, because the amount of money we lost in the 5th year, I said, I don't know if I can do this again. Thank God we had other businesses and things that we did outside of the festival, but her exact words were, you can look at the money lost in 2 ways. You can either look at it as losing money or investing money, right? Because when you invest in something, and in stocks or real estate or whatever it is, you don't see the return right away, right? It's down the road. So look at it more as an investment into this brand that continues to grow every year, right? You're getting more brand sponsors, more people in attendance, bigger acts, right? Why would you stop now? And she was right. Then the following year is when we kind of broke through.
So how do you pick the acts, and how do you convince them to be in One Musicfest?
It's a few of us that sit in the room, and we kind of have our favorites. We pick our favorites, and we pick what's trending, what's going on in this generation, what nostalgic acts should we plug in, and you just kind of see you kind of thread them all together to see what kind of tells the best story. Because that's what it is. Our lineup is literally, it's storytelling, right? So, when you look at, a Victoria Monet's journey, when you look at a Jill Scott's journey, even a Cardi B's journey, and just see how they're all kind of loosely connected in some weird cultural way. It just all kind of connects. So some people get it, some people won't. Some people are like, I got Glorilla on the same lineup as Earth, Wind, and Fire. To you, it doesn't work. To a music lover, it absolutely works. So it's a process. It probably takes us a good solid 2 months to really figure out what the lineup will look like, and convincing folks. For the special moments, it's really relationships.
In 15 years, One Musicfest has had some magical moments, like in 2016.
That was a very special year. Yeah, that was, in my opinion, probably one of the greatest music moments in Atlanta history. To have the Dungeon family kind of unite all together on stage. And to date, that was the last time that Outkast performed together.
2023 brought Janet Jackson to One Musicfest, and her fans were not just in the audience.
Everybody, every young artist we had on the bill wanted to see Janet Jackson. They were trying to figure out how to get there a little bit early or how to stay late just in order to see Janet or just to meet her. So yeah, Janet last year, everybody was trying to figure out how to get in front of her. Was it 19? I think 19 we did Isley Brothers, same thing. And I think that was the same year we had Pharrell, Usher, side stage watching. Yeah. I mean, those are the bridge builders for us, right? I mean, a lot of the hip hop songs you listen to, they have samples from these classic songs that's produced by these artists. So true music lovers, this is like a homecoming for true music lovers. I think festivals are a lot about discovery and learning too, right? And I think a festival, when you talk about festivals, I think community as well. So it has to be accepting to all people, right? I mean, if you look at the makeup of our audience, it's not 100% Black by any stretch, I would say the bulk of our audience is probably early 30s, but my parents are out there, my kids are out there, and everyone's having a good time. And I think that's one of the things that also makes One Musicfest very unique. It does feel like a very genuine, authentic, safe place to celebrate our culture and music, right? So you got Earth, Wind, and Fire over here. You got, the vegan Jamaican spot over here, and then you got, the someone doing, double Dutch and a roller skating rink over here. I mean, it's all corners of our culture just in one place being celebrated. And I think that's a generational story.
Now you have expanded to doing a festival in Dallas, but it has a different name, TWO, Gather Land.
Yep.
Why did you change the name?
So a lot of people said that. A lot of people was like, just call it One Musicfest Southwest. And when you do that, it's gonna make someone compare Dallas to Atlanta, right? Well, the One Musicfest in Dallas was this, and One Musicfest in Atlanta was this. So we said, well, why don't we just make a real clear divide, right? Why don't we, because Dallas, just like Atlanta, back in 2010, we didn't have anything quite like One Musicfest. And what I've come to find out is Dallas had nothing, or has nothing like a black music festival. Nothing that really the closest thing is like a Juneteenth festival, but nothing that celebrates like our music and culture, and just putting it in one space to just to be collectively celebrated. And so we said, all right, so let's give the Southwest and Dallas its own brand. Let's give them their own battle cry. And so we came up with Togetherland, which was a play off 1 and 2. So Together speaks unity, One speaks unity. So it's all in the same family.
So I've got to ask, do you pinch yourself sometimes and go, I can't believe I did this? Sometimes I do. I don't think I stop long enough sometimes to really kind of look at everything that we do. Because if you would have told me 20 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd tell you no. But yeah, because I was a fan first. I absolutely was a fan of music. I celebrated artists. I celebrated live music. I celebrated our culture. And I'm sure you're a testament to this as well. To be able to wake up every day and do something that you love and appreciate, it doesn't really feel like work, So yeah, I do have to slow down sometimes and say, this is a blessing that sometimes your destiny and your calling kind of taps you on the shoulder, and you didn't even know it was there. Jay Carter is a music fan, and he told me when Earth, Wind, and Fire hits the stage, he's cutting off the walkie-talkie and the phone to enjoy the elements. One Music Fest is October 26th and 27th. For more information, go to onemusicfest.com. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, check out the recommended videos on your screen and subscribe to Peachtree TV to see the latest from Monica Pearson One-on-One.